Not that this has anything to do with anything in this video, but we just finished watching season 4 of Orange is the New Black. My favourite season, easily. But, oh my god. It's sad, I'm sad. I'm just sad. It's very sad. Greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. Welcome back to CADDY'S Film Fridays, where we talk about films and films happen. And today we're going to be talking about the sequel, the unexpected sequel, honestly, to The Conjuring 2. And not The Conjuring 2 Revelations, not The Conjuring 2 The Revenge, just The Conjuring 2. And now, what did I think of it? Well, okay, you know what? I thought there were a lot of parts which were actually a lot better than the first one, because we rewatched the first one a couple of months ago, me and Caddycarus and Chloe, actually, her eldest daughter, and yeah, there were loads of bits in it which actually I loved the film when I first saw it, and now I only just kind of like it. When I rewatched it, I realised it wasn't probably as great as I remember it being, much better suited to the big screen than the little screen, but either way, wasn't expecting the sequel. Came out, we went to watch it immediately, and you know what, I'm really glad I saw it. Lots of things it did way better than the other one, but then also equally lots of things it did really fucking shitly, really badly. So for every good thing, there's a bad thing. But there's more good than bad, luckily, so we'll get into that as we go along. I would say no need to believe this is spoiler-free, but unfortunately this isn't going to be the case. I want to talk about this in a little bit more depth, so I'm going to say instead, you might want to flee, this isn't spoiler-free. So as far as the premise goes, this film pretty much follows on, as far as I believe, straight after the first one. Ed and Lorraine Warren have got a little bit more of a name for themselves. They're appearing on TV a lot more, trying to debunk people. It's mostly based on true events. It's basically, this time, instead of being set in an American house or anything like that, the film kicks off with Amityville, which honestly is a really good, goddamn brilliant opening for a horror movie. It gets to the point, it's in your face, it lets you know what's going on before the events of what's going to happen is happening on it. It starts very similar to the first one. I like the beginning. It's very much in your face. And then basically the rest of the film takes place in Enfield, in England, where it's going to be talking about the Enfield poltergeist, which is one of the most famous documented UK cases of paranormal activity ever. Also very controversial for being probably fake. So already loads of awesome ideas are being thrown to the table about the fakeness and about the allegations and everything. Does the film do anything with these ideas? Not really. The fakeness is probably used as a one divergence for the plot at one point, but you know it's kind of pointless because you know everything's going to turn out well in the end anyway, so it's not really used to any effect whatsoever, which is a massive shame. But either way, it's about the Enfield poltergeist, the Hodgson family, Hodgson family, who were real people. The photos and everything online, it's all there. They reenacted a few of the photos as well in the film, which is always nice. But yeah, it's basically Ed and Lorraine Warren checking in on the Enfield hauntings, along with the other paranormal investigators and skeptics that were in the house at the time it was happening. Now, the Enfield haunting itself was actually a Sky Living like mini-series. It was a 3 or 4 episode series with Timothy Spall, I believe, if I'm remembering that correctly. And honestly, me and Caddycarus watched all of it. It was boring as sin. I mean, people really loved it. Acting was great, but it was so goddamn boring. The most interesting thing that happens is a teapot falls over. I'm not even joking. Nothing happens in the fucking whole thing. It doesn't amount to anything. It's basically just a character relationship drama thing with a like a poltergeisty backdrop. But it probably is actually a lot closer to the real events of the real story than this film is, because it's obviously Hollywood, but there you go. So that's basically the premise of the film. So when there's the cultural shift from America to the UK, it starts off with London Calling by The Clash, which already is kind of confusing since The Clash's London Calling was released in 1979 and The Haunting took place in 1977, which it even states at the beginning of the film. I'm not gonna fucking ask, it's a good song, it kicks off the mood very well, shows you the immense difference in a very short space of time between what America in the 70s was like and what the UK in the 70s was like. Shows you all these quick images and everything. It's a really fast-paced and good way to transition, I guess. And it's really cool to see everything take place in such a cramped council house kind of location, and it was just really unique to see a poltergeist paranormal movie take place in a UK council house in the 70s, because already the aesthetics really kind of dated and really like just dingy and really horrible, but it's also very cramped. There's a lot of people, a big family living in such a small space, and there is not much room to go around. But the good thing about that is that, against all of the cliched mansions and everything, especially from the first movie, there's a lot more opportunities for the audience to get connected with the environment and learn the ins and outs of the locations of everything. So when the characters are walking through the house, you can kind of have an idea of where something could be hiding. And if you don't have any idea where something could be hiding, it's already cramped and it's claustrophobic and it is really uncomfortable. And it's really awesome how the film manages to do this with great cinematography. It does a lot of cool things and a lot of unique scares as well that work to the claustrophobic nature of the UK 70s council house really well. There's a scene where one of the characters is walking through the house and you see the ghost of the thing that's haunting right on the side of the frame, literally like maybe there, as far where my finger is on the frame, and it's just there, and he's just there rocking in a chair. There's no music cue, there is nothing. He's there, and doing that in a haunted house would be, I don't think, that effective, but doing it in such a cramped and small space works really well. And also with the financial situation of the family, it leads to some unique things as well, such as the kids needing to make tents in the middle of the corridors and everything for their idea of fun, and really cheap, tinny, like loud toys, and really cranky old wooden music box toys, and really dank and oppressive and breaking up and rotting rooms and stuff, which isn't done for the sake of, oh, it's a spooky mansion. It's done for the sake of, this is a family living on a budget in the 70s. And it's just it's a really unique setting, really cool. And the atmosphere is really thick. It just captures everything really well. It captures the time period really well, and everything really works out pretty brilliantly. Acting as well, I gotta say, Ed and Lorraine Warren, Patrick Wilson, and I'm so sorry I've forgotten her name. Is it even Patrick Wilson? I've completely forgotten. I've completely forgotten. Either way, those two are brilliant as always. I think they've nailed how Ed and Lorraine Warren should be represented. They're really good. They're really great. Their chemistry is great. Everything about them is great. I would say they're definitely the best bits of the film. And yeah, the acting overall is really great. The child actors are fantastic, really great. Everyone is really genuine, really. And there's moments like when, because the dad of the Enfield family aren't with them anymore, ran away, whatever. They have moments of Ed kind of maybe interacting with the kids in such a way that makes them wish that he was their dad, but then the plot doesn't go that way, which was a nice little twist, I suppose. It was that they were just appreciating him being there, not necessarily wanting him to be a dad or anything. But there's a moment when they try and get some Elvis records working, doesn't work, so he picks up a guitar and starts playing I Can't Help Falling in Love, and when he's singing it, he doesn't sing it very well, and he does the face, and he does the Elvis voice and everything, and a part of you wants to cringe, but then another part of you makes you realise this is a moment, and it's a really genuine moment, because it's not fabricated, it's what you're seeing, it feels real, it feels like someone trying to make some kids laugh in some really dark times and everything. It's really damn cool. And as far as paranormal movies go, they're not my cup of tea personally. Way too many jump scares, way too many nothing, something, nothing, something, oh, something fell over, blah blah blah, and it's not really my thing whatsoever. Paranormal Activity, for instance, did nothing for me, nothing, absolutely nothing. I didn't mind 2, but no, 1 and the rest just no, but that's just my opinion. But as far as like paranormal movies like that go, I think The Conjuring 2 has some of the most unique scares and unique tension building I've ever seen in these kinds of films. For through the first, I would say first 2/3 of the film, the old man ghost that used to live there, which, by the way, the creepy little girl thing has been done, but old English man from the 70s ghost, fucking scary as far as I'm concerned, fucking creepy. His face, his voice, his temperaments, the way that it realistically portrays what a man like that would be like, especially for someone who wants you to get out of his house. it's realistic, it's really damn cool, and it does lead itself to, like, someone tweeted me that one of the scares in the movie was literally just a guy behind someone shouting, "My house!" And I was like, really? But then in the context of the film, when I watched it, it made perfect sense. That's the thing with creepy little girls, is that when you do a creepy little girl thing, half the time it's not even justifiably correct. It's not even like the creepy little girl is creepy for... It's just because she's a little girl and they're supposed to be cute and they're not, and then they do the creepy voice. But no, this is just a guy telling this family to get the fuck out of his house. And when they don't listen to him, like, that he then gets more aggressive and the biting starts happening, and then shit starts trying to thrown at the people, and then there's deaths that are really close to happening and stuff. And it's then that you realise that this thing is a threat, which is really cool, really cool. It's not just trying to scare people or anything, it's a threat. But it's not even a threat that's got a grudge against anybody, he just wants his house back. And I thought that's such a really cool way to approach something like this. And there's even like the first major weird scare I'd say in the movie was when the youngest of the family is playing with a fire truck toy, a tin, loud, clanky fire truck toy, and he's pushing it into his little tent that he's made out of like rags in the middle of the corridor, and then he pushes it into the rags, and then the rags spit the thing back out again. It's been done before, whatever. But then as he goes closer to it, he then gets screamed at, and you think, well, that's a pathetic attempt of a scare. But then when you think about it, it's the ghost warning them. He's trying to scare them, and that is what a ghost would do. It would scream at them. That's what they would do. The camera doesn't do anything special, the music doesn't really do anything majorly special, but the scream is there trying to tell him to get the hell away from his house. And the more you think about it, the more it makes sense as well. It's like, okay, you could call it a cheap reactionary scare, but it works really well, and it sets up the paranormal, the entity. It sets up the poltergeist itself really, really well. There are also some really awesome scares in it, like the kid's sleepwalking or something, and then she goes downstairs and she comes back upstairs, and the kid that was sharing a room with, she hears like 3 huge knocks on the door. Then she goes over and opens the door, and you think, oh, it's quiet, there's gonna be a scare, there's no one at the door, blah 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 blah. It does all the things, but then what happens after about 20 seconds of looking around? The other kid just walks up through the corridor. No loud noises, no "ah" or "oh my god, why did you scare me like that?" No, just she comes up and she says, "Why were you knocking on the door?" And she says, "I wasn't." And that's that. That's atmospheric, it's creepy, it's memorable. I loved all that kind of stuff. And also, as well, there's also a kind of side plot going on, which unfortunately didn't need to be there, but it still worked really well. There were some really unique scares and really creepy moments with a haunting that's going on in the Warren house itself. Not with Annabelle, thank God, but there's this weird nun creature that's following them around and scaring them, and leaving her or its name everywhere. And while this whole Enfield thing is going on, the Warrens are also being haunted by their own things, and Lorraine Warren is getting all these visions and nightmares about Ed's death and stuff. Unfortunately, as interesting as it is, it doesn't fucking go anywhere. This is the problem, it doesn't go anywhere. And when you think it's going somewhere interesting, it then decides to mix itself in with the rest of the fucking story. Now here's the main problem I had with the film. It didn't really know what tone to stick with, because there was the creepy, cramped, claustrophobic, realistically like nasty kind of UK side of things, and then there was the over-the-top and unique scares, I will admit. The shadow coming across the wall and then going behind the painting, and then the hands coming out to grab the painting. Very cool, very imaginative. You can see the effort in there. But the problem is, it starts off intriguing, but then just loses everything because it gets intermixed with the UK stuff. Because as soon as Ed and Lorraine then go to the UK to fix or investigate what's going on, the demon that was haunting them in their house follows them to the UK, and then that demon becomes the puppet master for the other ghost in the UK. And then they have to find out why the ghost is now doing what it's doing, why it's being more aggressive and everything. And it's a really cool plot device, I'm not going to lie about that, it's really cool. But the problem is that after that happens, everything it was building up to goes away. All of the old man wants them out, goes away. So, good setup, but it's gone. And then the good setup of why the Warrens are being haunted by this thing also goes away, because you don't see anything of it until the beginning, I'd say, quarter of the film, and then the last 10th of the film, and then all of a sudden it just pops up, they scream at it, they call it its name, send it to hell, and then that's it, it's gone. For all of the build-up, for all of the creepy shit that was going on, and for all of the well-paced introductions to both of these paranormal entities, you'd think there'd be some sort of... It tries to be epic and overblown, which I don't like. That's what they tried to do in the first one with the ending, and it didn't need it. It ruined it, and it ruins it more than ever in this movie, seriously, because it's just like, it doesn't need it. It could have been just the creepy old man telling him to get the fuck out. It could have just been that as a story. But no, it doesn't go that way. It doesn't go that way. It decides to take the whole stupid, we need a massive climax, we need personal demons from both sides clashing, and that's fine, I guess, but the problem is it never builds up to that. It just happens. And you forget that the thing is even following the Warrens in the first place, and then all of a sudden, bang, there it is. Call it its name, send it to hell. What the hell was all that about? Literally, what the hell was that about? It doesn't make any sense. And it also clashes with scares that try way too fucking hard. Like, there was one particular bit, there's an introduction of a music box. There always is. But it's an old wooden cranky thing, and it's about, it's like a music box with I don't know what they're called, but it's like an image that spins around really fast, and you look into the piece, and then you can see something moving, like one of those kinds of things. And it's of an old English nursery rhyme called The Crooked Man, which I've always found a really creepy nursery rhyme as it is anyway. And I thought, well, you think from the second it's introduced, which also makes sense because the kid has the kid that owns it has a stutter, so he's learning to sing. It's integrated really well. It's not for the sake of it. I like the effort, but you think it's going to go somewhere. And the Crooked Man himself in the picture is really disturbing and moves really weirdly. And then you think it's going to be used at some point in the future, and it is. Is it used effectively? Is it used creepy? Fucked if it is. What happens? Well, the kid, they move over to someone else's house to get away from the haunting, and the dog of that house wakes them up. So the kid goes to see the dog, and then the Crooked Man from the picture, about 20 feet tall, grows out of the dog, starts reciting the nursery rhyme in the cheesiest voice, and he looks like shit. It's shit CGI. He has a silly face, and it is hilarious. It's hilarious. I'm sorry, it's the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. And every time they try reusing the Crooked Man, like when Ed comes to see him and everything, it's even funnier. It's funny, and it doesn't need to be there. It's this constant clashing. It doesn't know what it wants to keep going with. Does it want to do the creepy old man that just wants the people out of his house story, and then base it on the relationships, and try and make the conflict of Ed and Lorraine more about what their lives are more than this other entity? And if they are going to use this other entity, why don't they then build up and have its own arc with it instead of mixing it in and then just having it disappear through the whole fucking movie and then appear at the last minute to then be sent to hell, so it just gives them an excuse to exorcise the demon? It just didn't need any of it. I mean, that's the thing, it's got the most intriguing plot threads to start with. It's got so many awesome ideas going for it, and it just doesn't ever exploit what it has. Okay, that's another thing. There's some awesome scares, like at the beginning when they're in the Amityville, I believe. There's a bit where Lorraine is in her mind going into a basement, I think, or an attic or something, and the camera is pointing on her in the middle, and there's a mannequin in the background, and you kind of think, oh, the camera wants me to look over at the mannequin, so I'm going to keep my eye on it. So you're looking at her, but also looking to the right. So your focus is kind of on the right side center of the screen. But then, as she turns around, she moves, and as she moves, things pop up from behind her, a row of kids, all with horrific faces. And unless you were looking on the left, you wouldn't have noticed that. So there's constant tricks to the audience about what you should be looking at, what you should trust, and what you shouldn't trust. But then it all gets blown out the way when there's just shit flying in your face for no reason. On the American side of everything, it doesn't really work together. I also love the one shot of the scene where Ed's talking to the spirit and he has to turn around, and the girl has to go and sit in the chair that the ghost resides in. so that he can possess her and talk to them. And all through the whole shot, he is talking to this spirit while he's facing away, but then the spirit in the back is defocused and you can never see him. Clever stuff. I like that. I really like that. It's just, there's all this clever stuff and it just never really amounts to anything. That's the problem. You know exactly where it's going to go. You know they're going to sort everything out. And every time you think that Ed and Lorraine are going to have a conflict, or there's going to be something to jeopardize their relationship, or, you know, you see the visions of Ed dying, you think, what is that? How is that going to happen? Why would it happen? It then just throws all of its eggs in one basket at the very end for no reason whatsoever. It doesn't do anything interesting with it. And it's such a shame because everything leading up to it is so good. I mean, is it fun to watch? Absolutely it is. It's really fun to watch. And there are also some very tongue-in-cheek moments, very funny kind of moments as well, which they had in the first movie, which I really enjoyed, especially with Ed and Lorraine. Again, they're the highlights of the film, but there's just so much of it which could have been expanded or didn't need to be there whatsoever, but were just thrown in for the sake of making it look good for a trailer. I swear to God. And I gotta say, the biggest disappointment was how they tried to incorporate the evil nun that's terrorizing the Warrens with the evil Wilkins ghost that's terrorizing the English family. Because it just basically, as soon as they mix together, everything before it gets thrown out the window, and then the intrigue goes, and then the next half of the film, or last third, or whatever, whichever bit it was, starts going down the most cliched routes imaginable, and then you think that the family is faking it, but then that doesn't affect anything. They still come back, and then all of a sudden it just it turns out that it was the nun all along, even though the nun wasn't ever part of the ghost in England at the beginning. They could have had their own things. They're totally different entities. I know I keep going on about it. I'm sorry, I didn't make any notes for this one, but I couldn't make my notes in the cinema because it's on my phone. But still, I know I'm rambling about it, but it really does suck everything the movie has going for it out of the equation, especially since it does so much better than the first movie. But in overall tonality, in overall pacing, keeping a set tone, the first one does it better because it just keeps the same uneasy atmosphere from beginning to end. It doesn't ever diverge from that. But this one can't decide whether it wants to be claustrophobic, dank and creepy, like with the bits like in the watery basement, like where it's flooded, and then there's the teeth after the bite mark, the false teeth that are floating around, and the man's like hiding in the water and stuff. There's so many awesome moments, and it's just all gone when you throw this ridiculous crooked man shit that you think is even going to be used once, but no, they reuse it because it was just so scary the first time. And then they make that become a more tangible threat than the creepy old man biting them without anyone seeing them. And then they make the nun the main villain when the nun could have been its own story in itself. I mean, that's the thing, you don't even know the backstory of the nun. Why is the nun so evil? Why is it come back from hell? Why is it haunting the Warrens? Why is it now deciding to haunt the family in England with the Warrens? None of it's explained. It's for the sake of scares, nothing else. So basically, I would say all the England stuff was great up until the halfway point. And the scares, the technicalities of the nun bits were good at the start, but then as soon as it all mixes together, it just goes down predictable, unfortunately. And yeah, I don't know what much more I can say about this. Sorry about the rambly, shitty quality of this thoughts video. This really is just a random thoughts video, but I wasn't disappointed. I'm still glad I saw it, but I gotta say, on the recommendation scale, I'm gonna give Conjuring 2 a recommend it, because like I said, it does a lot better, but it also just, for everything it does great, it takes way, like a lot, not way too many, a lot of steps back. There's a lot more good in here than bad, and even if you can look past the bad, it's still a really fun movie. It's still a fun horror movie, but it's just there's too much wasted potential, and it gives you the impression at the start that it took everything, it learned everything from the first one, and it's going to give you a more solid, grounded movie, and you think it's going to do it, but then it just can't help itself, and I find that really, really a shame, honestly. So farewell everybody, until next time, take care. Again, sorry for the rambling, I hadn't got any decent notes for this goddamn video, but yeah, I recommend it. Not highly, not must see, but I recommend it. If it's your birthday watching this video, happy friggin' birthday to you. Please remember to stay beautiful. I'll see everybody on Sunday.